Hello everybody, my name is Elena. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm bringing you my July wrap-up. Okay, July has ended. It's August now. It's actually the 1st of August when I'm filming this video. So now we have to talk about all the books that I read. I was getting out of a reading slump in July because I was in a reading slump in June. And then I finally got out of it in July, like kind of mid-July, but more towards the end. So there's not a lot of books on this list, but there's still 10 of them. We're going to be talking about 8. The average rating for this month was 4.08, so I actually did pretty good. And right off of a reading slump, I found 2 5-star reads. One of them is the read that got me out of the reading slump, and I can't wait to talk about those 2 books. But they're near the end, so we're gonna have to wait a little bit until I get to them. I did also have 2 DNFs. I always save the DNFs for the end, and then I forget to actually talk about them. So for July, my 2 DNFs were The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston and The Maze Runner by, what's his name? Dashner? Something Dashner? I watched the movie and I really liked it, so I was like, oh my god, I want to read the books and then continue watching the movies, and then I realized the movies are somehow better than the books, so I'm just gonna stick to the movies. I tried listening to the audiobook and I really didn't like it, and I felt like it dragged, and The Dead Romantics just wasn't for me. I feel like that's the conclusion that I came to. And because I forgot to mention the DNFs for June, I had Graceling by Kristen Cashore because I found the whole story incredibly boring. I tried listening to it on audiobook and that even didn't do it for me. And then Dear Aaron by Mariana Zapata, and I literally read half of the book and I felt like it was way too slow. Like, I know Mariana Zapata writes slow books, I love her writing, but that book just wasn't it. Now I get to talk about the fun books that I actually did manage to read. The first 2 books, I'm going to talk about them in tandem because they are the first and second book of the If Love series by Anna Huang. This is the series that she wrote, I think, before the Twisted series, and it's not as popular as her other series, but I decided to pick them up. Listen, this is when I was in a reading slump and I was like, okay, I need a short, simple, easy, devourable book that's gonna give me, you know, a boost of dopamine when I finish it, you know? So I picked up If We Ever Meet Again, and then the second book is If the Sun Never Sets. I originally only picked this book up. The reason why I'm talking about them in tandem is because they're actually 2 books about the same couple. The other 2 books in the series follow different couples in every book, but these 2, this is like a little mini duology. So this first book actually doesn't have a happy ending. That is not a spoiler. That's written in the beginning of the book. That's the author's note. There is a happy ending to the couple, but not in this first book. It's a group of friends studying abroad, and they're studying in Shanghai. And our main character is called Farah. The male main character is called Blake, and they kind of meet each other. They're kind of really not their type, you know? They're kind of snippy with each other, but they're attracted to each other, and then they kind of start dating, and stuff happens. And listen, there's a trope in here that a lot of people hate, and I don't know if I should say it or not, so I'm just gonna say, if you don't want to know the trope that is in here that might potentially spoil the book just a little bit, maybe pause the video or mute me until I put the book down. It has the cheating trope inside of it, so do with that what you will. I will just say, it's not what you think. And that I'm gonna leave you with that, okay? You can come back now. Are you back? Did you unmute the video? Okay. So, I rated this 3.5 stars. Right at the end, it kind of made me, like, tear up a little bit. The writing was fine. It was just Anna Huang, you know, it's just easy, simple writing, but it was no, like, Twisted Games or Twisted Lies, which are my favorite by her. It was okay. So, some of the things that the characters said kind of irked me, like, when Farah and Blake are actually together, they're like lying on this bed or whatever, and Blake is like, oh, I don't deserve you, you know that? And then Farah goes, I know. And I'm like, what? Because, like, I would understand if it's in a jokey way. It wasn't. It was a completely serious moment, but I had fun reading it. It's actually, I would highly recommend it if you want, like, a quick summary read, something that's, like, really light to read, kind of like a beach read. I would definitely pick this up. However, I do think you should have this book on hand. You're gonna need it because that other book kind of ends on a cliffhanger. This one's a second chance romance, okay? We already know something happens at the end of that book, right? So this is the second chance right here. I was expecting to love this so much more, especially because I had a suspicion about something that happened in the first book, and it came out to be true. My suspicions were correct, which was a good thing. but it wasn't executed well, and I didn't like it, and I felt like this book had so much potential to be so fun, and then it wasn't. So do with that what you will. I don't know. I don't really want to tell you too much else about these books. One, because, I mean, is there really anything else to tell you? And two, I just feel like you should go in blind and just have fun with it, okay? If you want to have fun, turn your brain off and read really good books. I don't know if I'll be reading the other ones, and I forgot to mention that I rated this 3 stars. And then, no matter how big the reading slump was, this book came out, which was my most anticipated release for the year, and that is Dishonestly Yours by Kristen Becker-Ritchie. And thank you so much to Awesome Books for actually shipping it out earlier so it could arrive at my tiny ass little country in the middle of nowhere on time for me to read it, which I did. And look at all those tabs. Okay, I was tempted to do a reading vlog, but I was like, you know what? I kind of just want to savor the book, and that I did. Okay, you see the strawberry? I ate this up. This is book 1 in a new series that Kristen Becker-Ritchie are writing. It's called the Webs We Weave series, which, by the way, is a perfect name for a series. I don't know, it's just, I love the name of it. If the authors sound familiar to you, they're the authors of the Addicted Calloway Sisters series and the Like Us series. They're my favorite authors. I love them very much. I was super excited about this book. It's basically about 2 con families, right? And we have Haley in one family, and then we have Phoebe in another family. And they're best friends, and their moms are also best friends with each other. And Haley and Phoebe decide, okay, we don't want to lead this life anymore. We don't want to be con artists. We don't want to, like, con people anymore. We're gonna run away, and we're gonna start fresh, and it's all gonna be good and great and fun. However, Haley's older brother, Rocky, finds them at the little motel that they're staying at until they get to their destination, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing? So they're like, yeah, we're kind of not coming back. And he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna stay with you for a little bit while you're there until you get settled, and also until you change your mind, and then you decide to come back. And a big part of Kristen Becker-Ritchie's series always is found family, well, like real family and found family. And that is exactly what was in this book, and I devoured it. I loved the characters immediately. I was hooked. I liked the romance. It is a bit on the lustier side, but I feel like it has so much more room to grow. Talking about growing, I give this 4.25 stars, which I know might sound like a bit of a low rating for how excited I was with the book. I think it's a perfect rating because I'm guessing it's going to be a pretty lengthy series from what happened right at the end. I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of shit happening. So I'm leaving room to grow. I know that every other book is just going to get better because that's what happens with the Calloway Sisters series, right? You start off with Addicted to You, and it's a good book, but it's like not like your favorite. I mean, it might be, but usually that's like not people's favorites, and then as the series goes along, they get better and better. I feel like that's what's gonna happen here. I think if we had a bit more of all of the characters together, because like I said, they're con families, right? It's not just Haley, Phoebe, and Rocky. Phoebe has 2 older brothers. Haley has another 2 brothers, and then at one point all of them meet up. And I don't know when the second book is coming out, but I'm really excited to read it because their writing is just a delight, okay? I love the way that they express human feelings and emotions. They just put it into words really well. And just to give you a little taste, this is literally like page 1, chapter 1, right in the beginning. I already have a tab. This is how the book starts off, right? This is the first sentence. People say you choose your friends, but my friendship with Haley Tinrock never felt like a choice. We clung to each other because we were told to, and then it became survival. And now together we're leaving our families behind. That already had me hooked. If it didn't have you hooked, I don't know what to tell you, but hopefully I've at least convinced you to look into the book. It's a really fun concept because, you know, con families or whatever, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. After reading Dishonestly Yours, I was in the mood for a romance, and I was like, you know what? Do you know what I'm in the mood for? And I was like, Tessa Bailey. I decided to pick up her new release, which is Fangirl Down. It came out in February. I think the second book is already out now, so I guess that's the new release, but like when I read it, Fangirl Down was the new release. That was also in my list of books that I was anticipating that were coming out in 2024, and I just hadn't gotten around to reading it. I really liked it. Tessa Bailey for me is kind of a hit or miss author. Like, I adore some books and I really don't like other books. However, I will always come back to them because I like her writing. I like how witty she is. I like how ridiculous her plots are sometimes. Her books are just really, really fun. So I decided to pick up Fangirl Down, and I'm like, okay, if I don't enjoy it, at least I'll be having some fun, all right? I loved it. I give it 4.25 stars. The first half of that book, I was like, this feels like 5 stars. The second half of it kind of, like, the pacing slows down a little bit and it's not as good as the first half. If the second half had been as good as the first half, it would have been 5 stars. So I really enjoyed it. If you don't know what Fangirl Down is about, it's about a golf player. And he used to be really popular. He was like the golden boy, like everyone loved him. And then his career kind of starts going downhill. And she's been a fan of him since he kind of, I guess, became a little popular or whatever. She's been a fan of his for a really long time. She comes to all of his games. Like, at this point, like, he knows her. Like, he literally talks to her and he's like, oh, you're here again. And she's like, yeah, where the hell else would I be? You're the one playing right now, you know? So she's obviously the fangirl. That's why the book is called Fangirl Down. And then his career starts going downhill. And he decides, okay, well, I need help. And so he seeks her out. And he's like, hey, do you want to maybe be my caddy? I think it was called Caddy. If not, this is really embarrassing for me. And if it is, then I'm a genius and I remember things really well. And she's like, what? And he's like, yeah, you ride, you know, in the little golf cart and you carry around my equipment. She's like, I know what a caddy is. Why me? And then he's like, well, to be completely honest with you, no one ever wants me right now because, like, you're the only one. And she's like, you know what? Fine, I will. And so they go on this little journey together and they're kind of salvaging his reputation and they're kind of bonding. And this book was just really, really fun. And I know a lot of people make fun of this book because of, like, that photo with all the tropes and the arrows and stuff, which, by the way, I love those photos. I don't care how tacky you think it is so fun to me. I eat it up every single time. The second I see a photo like that, I'm like, yes, tell me everything about this book. Tell me the tropes. One of the arrows says, touch her and you die, and people were like, he's a golf player. Listen, I feel like some people take it a bit too seriously, okay? It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be ridiculous. Okay, that's kind of the genre that Tessa Bailey likes to write in, and honestly, she does it really well. All her books are really fun. This next book is one of the 5-star reads, spoiler alert, and it's the book that got me out of the reading slump. It's the one that literally yanked me out, and that is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. From chapter 1, I was hooked. I mean, look at the amount of tabs that are in this book. I absolutely adore this. This is an adult fantasy. I'm pretty sure you've heard of it by now because it's quite popular. This is the book 1 in the Shepherd's King duology. I have book 2. I'm going to be reading it in August. If you didn't see my TBR for August, I will link it. But I adored this book. I can't wait to get to the second one. I really liked the characters. I think that's what got me. Like, if you want me to really enjoy a book, you have to get me to like the characters, and immediately I was invested. This book is basically about Elspeth, and she's like a 20-year-old girl, and she has a monster living inside of her head. I'm not going to tell you how it got there because that would be a spoiler, but there is a monster living inside of her head, and he kind of talks in riddles or whatever, and she calls it the Nightmare. And in this world, there are Providence cards, which are like little magical tarot cards, and whoever owns the card can use the card to have magic. But every time you use the card, obviously it gains something back because there needs to be a balance, like there's always a price. And there used to be this plague in this world, and all the children that were infected had powers without having to use the Providence cards. And one of the kings decided that's forbidden, so they literally burned the children that were infected. So the only way you could have magic is if you have the Providence cards. Elspeth is one of the kids that actually had that infection and that plague, but survived because her parents kind of hid her away. And so you kind of follow her on this journey when she has to team up with certain people to actually collect all the Providence cards, because there is a mist in this forest that keeps kind of invading the kingdom, and as soon as it invades, people go crazy and they die, and the only way to stop the mist from spreading is to collect all the Providence cards. That's a really lengthy way to explain this book, but hopefully that makes sense. If not, look it up. I swear it's gonna make more sense than whatever I just tried to say, but hopefully at least I did something, you know? But yes, I adored this book. I can't wait to get to the second one. After One Dark Window, I was like, you know what I'm in the mood for? A mafia romance. And so my TikTok presented me King of Ruin by Sasha Leone. It's the first book in the Soulless Empire series. Is that what it's called? Yes. The first book in the Soulless Empire series, and when I tell you I don't honestly remember what the plot of this book was, I just remember that it was really fun. I read it in a day, and I gave it 4 stars. I think it's this girl is struggling with money, and she goes to the club with her friends, and her friend's like, we'll just pay for your drinks, it's fine, let's just have fun, you know, let's live a little. She's like, okay, fine. So they go to this club, and this guy starts, like, hitting on her, and she's like, can you please leave me alone? But he's, like, being really aggressive. And so this other man walks over and deals with the situation, which is obviously the mafia boss. You know, it's a mafia romance. Yeah, makes sense. And so their lives kind of get intertwined, and stuff starts happening, and then she has to live with him. And it's honestly a really fun story. Listen, there's only one thing that I need in a mafia romance, and that is the man to protect women and children, and that is what happens in this book. And I was like, all right, I'm sold. I can forgive anything else. Is that bad of me? Maybe, but that's the way that it is. So I really liked it. There is a hint of found family in it, which I also really liked. Some of the decisions that our FMC was making were kind of not stupid, but just like, I didn't really understand the point of them, like near the end, but it all worked out fine. I gave it 4 stars. It's a really fun, really light read. I tried reading the second book, but I'm honestly not that invested into the characters, so I'll probably never finish it, but the first book is really good. And then I wanted to listen to an audiobook while we were going to Thessaloniki. If you didn't see that vlog, I will link it. But I needed an audiobook for the bus, and I was like, oh my god, do you know what's out? The Fourth Wing Graphic Audio's audiobook. So that's what I decided to listen to. I'm gonna be holding up the book instead of the audiobook, obviously, because oh my god, whatever. So I decided to reread it. It was my 3rd time reading it. It was just as good as the first and the second time. I did have a problem with Taryn's voice in the audiobook. I felt like it would be deeper and raspier, which it wasn't, but I actually got used to it, and I actually really liked it. And the thing that the Graphic Audio's audiobook taught me is that I've been pronouncing almost every single name completely wrong in this book, except for obviously Zayd and Violet and the name of the war college, shockingly, which is Bisgayath. Those 3 I was pronouncing correctly, and the rest I have butchered. So I learned something new while listening to it. I really enjoyed it. I don't feel like I need to tell you what Fourth Wing is about. Everyone and their mother has talked about it. And the book that I literally finished last night is the other 5-star read that I had. Oh, by the way, Fourth Wing was 4.75 stars. That's what I gave it the first time. That rating is gonna stick. Anyways, this last book is the other 5-star read. This book ruined me. I'm not the same person that I was before yesterday. All right. First of all, the cover is gorgeous. Look at it. But the book I'm talking about is obviously For the Wolf by Hannah Whitten. It is the first book in the Wilderwood series. I say series, it's a duology. There's 2 books. The second one is For the Throne. The concept of this book is, first of all, really intriguing, but also the execution of it is literally perfect. The concept is that every couple of centuries, whoever's on the throne, if they have twin girls, the first daughter that's born is for the throne, and the second daughter that's born is for the wolf, which means that they sacrifice her to the Wilderwood. Now, what is the Wilderwood? It's these magical, sentient kind of woods that apparently keep hostage the 5 kings. That's what they call them. They're basically like the gods of their world. So every time there's twins born in a royal bloodline, they send off the second daughter into the Wilderwood as kind of like a sacrifice. So the Wilderwood can bring back the 5 kings. That's what happens to our main character, Rhedoris, or Red. And by looking at this cover, you would actually think it's a Little Red Riding Hood retelling. It's a different retelling, but I don't want to tell you what it is, because I didn't realize what it was until the very end, and it really like made the book for me. I don't think I would have liked it as much if I knew from the beginning. So I'm gonna leave you with that. But this book, basically the Wilderwood is described as this forest that's kind of sentient, but it's always twilight there. It's like there's no sunlight. It's always very foggy, very misty, and it feels heavy, like there's something heavy about it. That is exactly how the entirety of this book feels. Like, I felt everything clench in me while I was reading it, which just tells you how good the writing was. The quotes in this book were so good. The writing is really lyrical, but not too complicated. Like, you can perfectly understand what the writer is trying to say, but it's still so pretty to read. I do have 2 quotes that I want to read out. The first quote is basically talking about the sister that was for the throne. Her name is Neve. She's thinking about her twin sister in the forest and how she hasn't stopped doing things since she left. Like, she's doing like mindless little things. She's always moving around and people around her are like, oh my god, she's losing her mind. And she describes it as, but grief felt like gravel in her slipper and she felt it more when she was standing still. I read that and I was like, okay, that's offensive. That hurt. The other quote is kind of near the end of the book, but it's like no spoilers. It basically talks about the concept of having hope. And it says, but hope, you know, it's like a boot that won't break in, hurts to walk in, hurts worse if you go barefoot. Really good metaphors in this book. There is an underlying theme of this book, which is how far people will go for love. And that doesn't mean like romantic love. It can be platonic love as well, or familial love. And I really liked that concept of this book as well. It felt really touching. The execution of this book, again, perfect. There is romance in this. It's an adult fantasy, but there is a subplot of romance, and it's really slow burn, and it's really good. And did I even finish telling you what this book is about? Basically, they send Red into the Wilder Wood, and she meets with the wolf and then figures out that everything everyone's been telling the people of the villages in the kingdom is a lie, as per usual. So then she's like, well, I guess we have to fix it. So that's the plot of the book. If you take one recommendation from me from this video, let it be this book. And those are all the books that I read. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so glad I'm out of this reading slump, and I'm so ready to read all of the books that I have on my August TBR. So again, thank you for watching this video. You can like, comment, subscribe if you'd like, and I will see you in my next one. Bye-bye.